Hi everybody, I'm Kylie. I'm going to show you in today's tutorial how to draw a front and back pant. This pant is a basic pant with hip pockets. Let's have a little look. You've got, these are the hip pockets. You've got a waistband, a front waistband, a back waistband, two darts, front darts, fly stitching, a crotch crease, a button and buttonhole, and on the back you've got back waistband, belt loops, darts, pocket welts, and a butt crease. Now let's get started. What I'm going to do is draw the front first. I'm going to drag that off to the left there, so when I'm drawing conceptually you can see what I'm doing, but you can also see where we are going. When we draw garments, we generally draw a one side, and then we get it to the point that we are satisfied, and then we copy that side. Like I draw the left side, we copy that side, we reflect it, and then in the pant we're going to place the left and right side, butt them up against each other, and that's how we get our garment. We then also do the back of the garment is a modification of the front. So let's get started. What I want you to do is have no fill to start with, because I want to be able to draw on top of this template for you to see where I'm going and where I'm placing my anchor points and line segments. Go to your pen tool. P is the shortcut. We're going to start at the waist. So if I click, when you're in Illustrator, you are using basically a series of anchor points and line segments to create a shape, an object. So if in my pen tool, I click just below the waistline there, maybe just that little notch there on your female template, and I click, and you can see that red line that's drawn out there. That is a guide that will show you where you're going, where your line, where you're drawing. That will become your drawing line, your line segment. So I'm going to place that, it's a guide, I'm going to place that just outside of the waist, on the outside of the template, and I will just click and anchor in there. I'm going to bring my guide down to about the hip line, outside of the template. I'm going to make sure that it's outside of the hip there. I'm just going to click, anchor point, come down to the just above the ankle, click, and right here, notice I'm in my pen tool. Actually my hand's not on the mouse. If I just press shift, can you see what happens? Can you see that my little line there snaps into a horizontal position? That's what you want. I want to keep that, I want a really horizontal position here. So if I just hold down shift, I'm still holding, I'm not going to release, I'll tell you when I'm going to release. I click on my mouse to put my anchor point in, and then I release my left hand, the shift. And you can see that that's maintained a perfectly horizontal position. I'm going to come up here to just below the crotch, and I'm going to place my anchor point. You know, if you don't want it, it's not a yoga legging, you don't want it to be up here on the crotch, you want it to be just below. So I'm going to click my anchor point in there, and I'm going to come up. Notice I'm going to come up, when I come up to this waist center point, center front line, I feel that sort of snapping in there. And I'm just going to click with my mouse, and now I actually have a closed shape. All my lines are my anchor points, and all my line segments joined by anchor points are now all closed up into one whole shape. What you'll also notice is that there are no curves. So in this drawing we have I start at the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 anchor points. Out of those 6 anchor points, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them are going to be converted into curves. To do this, go to your anchor point tool. I'll just zoom in so you can see a little bit better. Go to your anchor point tool, and I generally draw in the direction. I like to drag my handles. This is a tip in the direction that you drew. Now I drew from right to left in a clockwise direction. So from this anchor point, if I drag out there to the left, you can see my handles. Got lovely handles in there. You notice it's seesawing there. What I want you to do is just don't release your mouse. Don't release your mouse, but just tap down shift, and you can see once again it's snapping those airplane handles into a lovely horizontal position, which is the position that you want. I'm going to release my mouse now first, and then release shift, and you can see I've maintained this horizontal position. Note here that this is bowing out. To remove that curve on that line, I'm going to click the tip of the handle that lies above that curve. I'm just going to click on that with my mouse, and you can see it's deleted the curve. I've deleted the handle, that right-hand handle, which has removed the curve there. I'll keep this one because that's my waist curve. Come down to the hip and drag out, drag downwards. Now, I'm not going to use shift here just at the minute. I'm just going to try and maintain a fairly vertical position. I haven't released my mouse, and now I'm going to release. You'll notice that that's sort of bulbous there and it's sitting out from the hip. That's fine. We'll come back to that and fix that up. Down the bottom here, this is the other curve that we're going to create. So just click on the anchor point and drag those handles out. Now what I'm going to do is see that inseam of the leg, the inseam there. I'm going to drag that inwards. I haven't released my mouse, and I'm going to make sure that that line here, this red line, sits above that original black line that I drew, because I want to keep that position of that line. So I'm going to release my mouse, and you can see it's kept that line position. Now what I'm going to do is click on the tip of this handle here, the handle that lies above that hem curve, and I'm going to just, don't release your mouse, and I'm going to bring it up to a position that I'm happy with. I'll show you a little bit of a tip. Grab your direct selection tool. What I like for this tip of this handle is to be lying above that high point of the curve, so that this centered, and also centered through the leg. Notice if I drag it out, asymmetrical, if I drag it out there, it makes a bit of an asymmetrical curve. And the same goes if I drag that handle to the right there. Also, it's a bit skewed. So if I just drag it back to the position where that I spoke about before, where it's just lying above there and it's centered, halfway between there and that side, the left and the right, you get a lovely curve. So I'll just zoom out, and I'll just go up to this crotch. This is the last curve that we're going to create, and I'm going to click and drag. Don't release your mouse. What I want to do here is make sure that you keep that inseam line away from, you don't want it cutting into the body, into the leg, because that would be disproportionate. So I want you to now I haven't released my mouse, but hold shift. Can you see how when I hold shift, tap on the shift button, just follow me, do it yourself, you'll see that it snaps it to a horizontal position. That's what I want. Want that crotch handles to be horizontal. So release your mouse, and now release the left hand, just release the shift button. And you can see now I've got a perfectly horizontal handle. Let me just zoom out for you a little bit. Also what I want to do is just eliminate that curve there. So I'm going to need to eliminate that handle, because that handle is the handle that operates that curve, because it lies above it. So just click on the tip, and you can see I've deleted the handle, which has in turn deleted the curve there. It's just a straight line. So the next thing I want to do, direct select tool to edit. Use direct select tool to edit anchor points or paths. Anchor points or line segments. So if I just click on it to select it, it's filled in now. You can see it's in edit mode, and all I'm going to do is right click on my arrow, tap on my right arrow, and I'm going to bring it in to just outside the hip. I'm going to tap on my down arrow. What I'm trying to do here is just create a nice curve through here. So you can do that by tapping down or up to the desired, tapping up or down arrow to your desired point. Look, I'm just going to do it below that hip point for now, and then still on my direct select tool, I'm going to shorten the length of that handle. And you can see as I'm doing that, it's reducing, it's flattening off that curve there. And I'm just going to rotate that out a bit too. What I'm going to do now at this point is I'm just going to show you, I'm just going to zoom out. Why don't you click on your fill color, and I'll click on my direct select tool, click on your artboard to deselect. I like to fill it in at this point because I think that you start to see what the shape actually looks like, and when it's filled in you really get the sense of the shape. So I'm going to zoom in. What I want to do is, I'm not happy it's sitting out too far, so in your direct select tool, click on that anchor point and just tap in with your right arrow and bring it into just a little fraction outside of the waist. Okay, so now lose your fill. Oh, sorry. Click on your artboard to deselect. Lose your fill. Grab your pen tool. Make your pen 0.5. I'm going to draw my dart, and using the front hip guide, this line through here, I'm going to click on the waistline and just make a little line. Click. I've got my tail there, so if I press escape, I lose my tail. A rule of thumb would be to keep your darts and buttons and items like that on the garment to be half the value of the outline. So in our case, our garment outline was 1 point, so you want to make this dart 0.5. So if I just selection tool and then click on my artboard to deselect, I can then see what that looks like. That looks good to me. Let's draw in the pocket. So go to your pen tool, or P for short, and I want to use color this time. So basically halfway between the dart and the waist point there, I want you just to click, and maybe I'm going to use this waist as a bit of a guide. I'm going to come out a bit, about there, just below it actually. Click an anchor there and come right down and click an anchor onto my top of that that line there. Now, a little tail, press escape to get rid of that tail. What you'll notice is that I've just noticed is this is 0.5. So bring that back up to 1 point because you want it to be the same as the outline of the garment. So what we're going to do is convert this line into a curve and this line into a curve so that we've got some shape on this pocket. So just in your anchor point tool, hover over the anchor and just drag it out. I haven't released my mouse. Release. Come over here to this point, drag out some handles. Now remember, if you're happy with that pocket line, I haven't released my mouse, just position that red line, the guide, over your existing black line and then release your mouse. And you can see it's maintained that line. What you want to do now is, I'm not quite happy with this line here. So what I'm going to do is, I'm still on my anchor point tool, I'm going to click and don't release your mouse. And I'm just going to drag that handle out and down and just inwards a little bit. Now just have a play. You can see what happens. Just don't release your mouse. Don't release your mouse. Just from experience, I think that around here could be the position that I want. And then I release my mouse. Okay. So a couple of things. What I want to do is bring in this point inwards. And I may need to shift that anchor point. But let's try direct select tool. Select that anchor point. It's now red. It's in edit mode. And I'm just going to right arrow. So just arrow in, tap, 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 tap. Bring it in to just so it sits out from the pocket there. Just so it sits a fraction out. And you can see what's happened now is this line is now too far inwards because it's exposing the underneath pant. So what I want to do is keep in my direct select tool, grab the tip of the handle and just drag that handle out. Drag that handle over. Don't release your mouse. Over that line and see what happens. Okay. Now I reckon maybe what you want to do is you want that line to sit flush on top of that line, and I can see it's not quite. So if I go to my direct select tool, select that little anchor point, and I'm just going to arrow in slightly. And if I just click on my artboard to deselect, it's That's very good. I'm happy with that. I'm gonna keep it like that for the time being. I don't like that. Okay, I don't like that curve there. So click on the line with your direct select tool. Just click on the line to select everything. Grab your handle, don't release, and I'm going to drag it just in this downward sort of lengthen the handle, and I'll release. Click on the artboard to deselect. That looks much, much, much better. Just get rid of that. Okay. So let's try doing the waistband now. So to make the waistband, direct select, click on the waist line, click on that line segment, and Control C for copy and Control or Command F for paste to the front. Control C, Control F, or Command C, Command F if you've got an Apple means copy and paste to the front. I'm copying that line and pasting it directly on top to the front. So zoom in. You notice I've got a fill there. You see that stray bit of fill, that stray bit of colour there? That's a telltale sign that I've got a fill there. So if I just click no fill, I've now taken the fill out of the line. So go over here to your stroke, make it 10 points. You can see there I've actually got a round cap. You can choose how you want the ends of your lines, the corners of your lines to be, rounded or squared off. Now I'm just going to choose a butt cap because I want this to be square. Go up to your waistband, your menu, Object, Expand. Okay. Now that's what expanding does, is it creates a vector shape from your line. And you can see there it is now a shape rather than a line. So here's a little tip, eyedropper, click on the pant. What that does is it copies the formula of the pant, i.e. the fill, that khaki fill color, and the stroke weight, and it applies it to that selection. So now you'll notice that the waist, the pocket and the dart is sitting on top of the waistband. So what I'm going to do is bring that waistband to the front. So if I right click and arrange, bring to the front, now my waistband has been layered on top of the pocket and the dart. I'll just go over to my selection tool and click on the artboard to deselect. The last thing that I want to do is see that part of the waistband. I want that to sit outside of the template, because remember, we want these garments to be proportionate, and you're using this template as a guide. So you want the waistband sits, of course, outside of the waist on your real body. So if I click on that anchor point, that's the anchor point I want to move out to the left, and I'll just left arrow. I'll click on that and click on the artboard. Perfect. Actually, maybe I'll just bring that bottom one out slightly. So if I just click and I tap out one, click on my artboard to deselect. Yeah, that's perfect to me. All right, so last thing I want to do is do the little belt loop on that half side. So in your pen tool, click pen, lose your fill, and just click on the waistband and maybe just below the waistband. And I just got a little tail, so I press escape. What I'll notice is it's still got a rounded cap. So at this point, I just want to have a butt cap. It just defaults on my program to rounded. So if I just choose a butt cap, square cap, and I go over here, and I'm actually going to choose 4 points. Okay. Object, expand to turn that line, watch, into a vector shape. Remember our little trick, eyedropper, click on the pant, and I'll just selection tool to select it and deselect, click on the artboard. So it looks pretty good. I'm going to zoom in just to show you what I do here. So let's go to your selection tool. I'm just going to actually physically drag this with my mouse. You can drag and release your mouse. What I like to do here is I'm just going to move that, actually I realise I'm just going to move that belt loop away from the dart. So what I like to do is keep this belt loop fairly parallel to the side of the the waistband there, so it follows the line of the waistband. And it also, if I were to extend that dart up, it runs parallel to that dart. That's the position that you want. What I want to do is I'm going to just down arrow a couple of spaces, and I'll click on my artboard to deselect. I basically want this belt loop to sit just above the top waistband edge, and that bottom of the belt loop to sit, you know, just a little bit away from there, because in reality this is going to be stitched down there. So let's zoom out. Okay, great. We've got everything we need on the left side. So now let's copy the left side and reflect it and paste it onto the right side. So in your selection tool, to move an object as a whole and select an object as a whole, you want to be in your selection tool. Quick shortcut is V. So I drag my marquee, don't release your mouse over the whole left side, and you can see now that all of the components, everything is selected, everything's got a red outline. And I right click, transform, reflect, make sure preview's ticked. I like to always see what I'm doing. Make a copy, and you can see it's copied and reflected. It's reflected and copied that shape on top of the original drawing. Now what I like to do is just start dragging with your mouse. Don't release, and hold shift. If you hold shift, it'll drag it along that exact same, on the exact same plane on the artboard. So then what I do is I release my mouse, and now I release my shift. While I'm still in that, while I've still got that object selected, I'm then with my little arrow, my little left arrow, I'm going to arrow in. Tap, 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 tap. And I'm going to just click on my mouse on my artboard to deselect. What I want to avoid is that little thick bit there. So what I'm going to do is just select marquee over in my selection tool, marquee over that whole right side till they're all selected, and just arrow in a couple of times. That looks good. You want it to be, that line there to visually look the same thickness as the outside lines. So now they're butted up against each other. What I'll do is I won't do the button right now, or and we know I'm not doing the stitching today. I'm going to leave the button. I'm going to just start drawing the back pant. Okay. So what we'll do is, with your selection tool, drag over the whole pant and just drag it off the mannequin. Okay. Now hold down Alt. You can see that I've got a duplicate arrow there, and start dragging over back to the mannequin, the template, and hold down Shift at the same time. I haven't released my mouse. I position it right where I want it, on top of the template where it was. I release my mouse, and I release Shift and Option or Alt at the same time. So now I've got a duplicate. What I'm going to do is delete the whole, I'm doing my back now, so let's just take off the whole right side, delete all of the components, delete the waistband, delete the pocket. Right, so now what we've got is a foundation for the back pant that is exactly the same drawing as the front pant, except with a slight modification. I'm going to select the center front anchor point, and I'm going to arrow up. The back waist on any pant is higher than the front waist, so you need that. I reckon, I'll just zoom in. You want that center front point there, that center back point, I should say, to be slightly higher than your side waist. I want it to look like that. So now you've done that, I'm going to select the selection tool and just click on the artboard to deselect. I'm going to quickly launch into doing my waistband. So in your direct selection tool, use direct selection tool to edit line segments or anchor points. I'm going to Command or Control C and Command or Control F to paste, copy and paste to the front. Lose your fill, go to your stroke and make it, what do we have, 10 points for our waistband. And again, it's defaulted, so I'm going to choose a butt cap. Go up to Object, Expand. Okay, remember our little trick? So it's converted that line into a vector shape. Go to your eyedropper, click on your pant to fill the shape with that information. Now, what you notice is that these are in the wrong positions. So if I'll start with this one. I'm going to, with my direct selection tool, click on that bottom, excuse me, click on that bottom anchor point to edit it. I'm going to left arrow out. Basically, I want it to be aligned with that side waist pant. Excuse me, I'll just take a little drink of my tea. What I also want now is to bring that top one inwards slightly so it's sitting more on the waist. So I'm going to click my anchor point to edit. Now it's in edit mode. I'm going to just right arrow in. So that's perfect. So if I just select, go into select, I like that. I go into selection tool to select it, then I click on the artboard to deselect. So let's just zoom out and have a look. It's looking good. Now I'm going to do my waistband in. So what I'm going to do now is draw in my dart. So lose your fill. Lose your fill, go to your pen tool, P for pen, make that 0.5. I'm going to just position that just to the left. Oh, look, just put it on that point there. Follow that front hip guide again. Now your waist, your back darts should be a bit longer than your front ones because of the curvature of your butt. So I'll just make that line there. I've got a tail escape. Again, you want that to be parallel. Great. Now I'll do my belt loops. I'm going to have a belt loop that lies. I'm actually going to do, let's just have a little look. Let's just zoom out. We'll have a look over here. Okay, so my belt loop's going to sit to the left there and then one in the center. So here we go. I'm just going to do a little belt loop here again, same as what we did last time. Click, click. Make sure that it's fairly parallel to that to the sideline there on the waistband. Press escape, and just I'm going to make that 4 points. We made these 4 points, didn't we? And I'm going to make that a square cap. Object expand. Okay. Now, eyedropper, click to transfer that information. So what you would notice here is actually, go to your select tool. I want to move this object as a whole. So notice if I hover over the corners, little arrows appear. This means that you can do a bit of an easy rotation. Here, okay. Oops, accidentally, I'll just click back on there. So what you'll notice is that it's a bit skew. My main aim is to try and keep this belt loop sort of fairly parallel to this line here and also to the dart. So what I do is I'll zoom in and I'll just deselect on my artboard. Is I'm going to get my direct selection tool, select the line segment there, and you can see it's all ready to edit. And I'm actually going to bring this one here downwards. So I click on that little anchor point and I just arrow down a couple of spots. And I'm going to bring this one, click on that one now to edit that one, bring that up one. Because essentially I just want this belt loop to be sitting just above that line there. So now I'm going to do the same, or not the same, I'm going to actually lengthen this one here, right? The left one, I'm going to, about 4 little spots, and I'm going to bring this one down. One. Let's have a look. Let's see what that looks like. Looks pretty good. Awesome. So what I will do, what you want to make sure of is that the belt loops are all uniform. So actually that one sits down a bit lower from the waistband than that one. So if you want to just click on your, just to replicate that, you click on your belt loop, and you can see these arrows appear there. You can just drag that down a bit. Drag it down slightly so it sits just below, and that should be pretty simple. What you notice it's done there is when you've dragged that down, it's kind of increasing the shape, so it proportionately increases the stroke as well. So just take the stroke back to 1 point so that it's the same as the outline. All right, perfect. So click on the artboard to deselect, grab your pen. I'm going to make the center front belt. Actually, let's do that last. Let's just make the pocket welt. Go to your pen tool, P for pen. I'm going to click align. We're going to do the same as we did with the belt loops. Escape, get rid of that tail. And let's just see incrementally what that looks like. That looks pretty good, 6 points. So get rid of the, make it a butt cap. Okay, let's try that. Expand. Okay, so it's made it into a vector shape. So get your eyedropper, click, selection tool, click on the artboard to deselect. Okay. Let's just rotate that slightly so it's slightly more vertical, horizontal. And let's have a look. Let's copy and reflect that shape. So using your selection tool, just drag, mark here around the outside, select the whole shape. Right click, transform, reflect, make a copy, drag it over with your mouse, don't release your mouse, hold down shift and release. And I'm going to arrow in. See what that looks like, arrow, 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 and deselect. Actually, it's still a bit thick through there at the top. So what I'm going to do is just arrow in a couple. Perfect. Now what I want to do is just make that, oh, whoops, let's make that center belt loop. So go to your pen tool. Okay, I'll just deselect that object. So I just go to your pen tool, P, and I'll just zoom right in, P for pen, click, and then hold down shift so you get a straight line, and then click your mouse in, escape, and then what do? We made that 6, and then go butt cap. Okay, let's have a look. Oh, it wasn't 6, was it? It was 4. So take that down to 4. Object, expand. Okay, eyedropper, click. Right. Now, let's look at this object. I want to move it as a whole, so I'm going to, what I'll do is, you want this to sit basically at the bottom, the same position as that. If I was to draw a line, I want those all to be sitting on that line. Actually, that bottom bit looks quite good. So, hit the selection tool. Why don't I just bring this one up slightly so it sits in a similar position as the other ones. Maybe that's a bit too high. I'm just dragging this with my mouse. And as you can see again, because I'm essentially increasing the shape, it's just increasing the stroke proportionately. So bring that back down to 1 point. Perfect. So now I have the back pant. So let me just drag the front pant away a little bit. So what I'll do now is I am going to actually, let me just drag that off a minute. Let's drag over here so we've selected the whole object. Alt or Option to make the duplicate arrow. Drag over another copy of the back pant. Don't release your mouse, hold down shift. Release your mouse and release Shift and Alt Option at the same time. So now you've made a duplicate. What I want to do is, this pant here is going to be my back view pant. That is my front view pant, but I want this pant, this duplicate of the pant, this copy, to become a shade darker and be placed and used as the interior of the back view as seen from the front. So what I'll do is just select. So select, hold down Shift to make a multiple selection. Keep holding down Shift, select, 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 oh, select, select the left and right waistband, all of the belt loops. Gets a bit tricky. Select, I don't want to select the lines. I want to select all of these parts. I'm still holding down Shift, by the way, to make multiple selections. And then I can release my Shift. And now you can see I've got all of these little shapes selected. And I want to go up to my color guide and make it a shade darker. You can see here, that's your color of your pant. If you chose any of these, would be tints of that color. And this here is adding black. These are shades. So if I just make it one shade darker, there we go. And I click on my artboard to deselect, I've made it a shade darker. So look, just delete your belt loops. Delete these, you don't need those. And what I want you to do is select, hold down Shift to make a multiple selection, select all of these belt loops, right click and arrange and send to the back. Just arrow up slightly so they're just poking out from the top of the waistband. You can see I just want them poking out. So you're still in the select, you've still got the three of them selected, and I want you to hold down Shift again and then select the right and left waistbands. And now right click and group. See, I've grouped all those objects together. It's not permanent. I've just grouped them so I can move them around together and keep them together. Now hover over that whole back shape to select everything and right click and group it all together. Now grab that back waistband, the back pant, and just hover it over so you think that it's aligned with the front pant and release. And then right click and arrange and send that back pant to the back of the front one. So if I zoom in, you can actually see it looks pretty good. If I just select and then select to deselect, I can see that I'll just, I might just drag it over here out of that grey bit so you can see. That's great. You can't see the back poking out from the front. If you were to, you would just simply, you know, arrow left or right or up or down until you think that it's perfectly aligned underneath. So last but not least, I just want to show you how to line up these. You'll notice that the waistbands aren't lining up. So what you want to do is I'll zoom in, see if I select that. If I just direct select, touch on the back waistband, you can see that is the back waistband selected. And if I touch on the front one, that's the front one. What I want to do is I'm going to arrow over with the direct select tool. You can see these are the two anchor points of the outside waistband corners. I'm going to right click, average. Notice what happens when I average. Averaging basically snaps each anchor point, one anchor point on top of the other. So if I press OK, you can see it snapped it one on top of the other. So that's all I want to do. I just wanted to align them. So now I'm just going to go over to this side. I'll zoom in. I'm going to do exactly the same thing using my direct select. Just hover over those two anchor points, right click, average. Okay, and you can see it's buttered them up together. You may have a problem, because my stroke has defaulted to round, you may have a problem that yours is actually in butt cap and you've got a little bit of a pointy corner. If you have, just go to round cap and round off those corners, and you can see it disappears, the pointy bit disappears. Okay, so there we have it. We have the front and back pant. As I said, on another tutorial, I'll do buttons and buttonhole, and I'll do the stitching. But for now, what I want you just to do is, in your selection tool, hover over it, select the whole object, right click and group. As soon as we've finished a garment, we will group it. Okay, do the same here. Marquee over it till it's all selected, right click and group. And now I can, you know, move them, everything around as a whole, and I don't have to worry about, you know, bits coming off. And there I have my front and back pant. All right, see you next time.